Walk with me. So, question for you. Do you ever feel super frustrated when you feel like you're stalled? Like you're stuck, like you're not moving forward? Why is that? I know many of you probably have a similar achiever personality. I mean, if you're spending time walking together, pouring into yourself, I'm willing to bet you got a little bit of that in you. I think we have a little bit of that in all of us. And by achiever personality, I mean, do you have the need to always be moving forward, going in a direction, progressing, growing, building toward something? And on the flip side, when you're not, do you feel like you're stuck or feel like you're just wasting time or talent or life? Maybe you feel like you're failing when you're standing still. Achievers, I know you know what I mean, but I also think this is part of all of us. I think it's built into kind of the human DNA that we do have a part of us that has a need, like a true need to grow, right? To move forward. We've all heard the old quote, if you're not growing, you're dying. And I'm sure we've all been at seasons of our life where we felt we were in the same place, and because of that, had a building frustration. I bring this up right now with all of you today because as we're going into this new chapter, God willing, as the light at the end of this pandemic tunnel, we can see it's growing brighter. And inevitably, whatever this next normal is going to be, we're going to turn the page and start to write soon. I'm hearing a lot of, let's just call it limiting language from people around me. Great people, right? Successful people, entrepreneurs, all the like. Saying things like, man, I just felt like this last year and a half was robbed from me, was stolen from me. Like this last year and a half was just a waste. I hear a lot of conversation around, man, I'm just not where I wanted to be or expected to be or hoped to be. Maybe in some cases, it's not only that you feel you haven't taken steps forward, maybe you feel you've even taken steps backward. But there seems to be this kind of big feeling, at least in some people, that this last year you've been, let's just say, at the very minimum, standing still, not moving in a direction at the pace or velocity that you want. And because of all of that, maybe a feeling that you're stuck or stalled or paused, or it's been a waste. Ring a bell? Sound familiar? And if that's not you, high five, hallelujah. Like if you've been charging through, building personal momentum in a place of creation, innovation, charging forward, maximizing the opportunity, amazing job and high fives. And if that is you, but I'm also willing to bet there's people around you that'll fall in to the conversation today, and I'm sure you'll resonate that there has been seasons in your life you've been through this, and there might be in the future. So I want to talk about how we reframe, how we shift that perception, what's really happening in what you feel like maybe a stall or a pause, and how ultimately, how you may feel right now over the last year and a half, you didn't get all that you wanted. And And I'm sure if most of us were honest and asked a poll of the world and everybody answered, the majority would probably say, yeah, I definitely didn't get all that I wanted. But I'm willing to bet if you understand what we're about to talk about, you might realize we've all gotten exactly what we needed. And all that we wanted and sometimes what we need are different things. But before we get into that shift, hey, who's by my side this morning? Beautiful day here in Southern California. Who's walking with us? Don't be shy. Say hello below. Who are you? Where are you from? Tell me something fun going on in your life right now, something that excites you. If you're new to the crew, welcome. We get together, share inspired dialogue weekly. Wednesdays, Walk With Me Wednesdays around the same time most weeks. Can catch past conversations on the podcast, Alive by Design, most podcast platforms. And my only request of you, yes, you, is you participate in the group. Share some feedback, some ideas in the comments. Your thoughts contribute to the conversation. That adds value to all of us. And I want to talk about this feeling of stalled, of frustration not moving forward, and what's really happening when you're in that place. Whew. Winded, got to the top. Beautiful day. Give you a little view. Woo! All the way to Santa Monica, Malibu, my little rock here at the top. And to illustrate today's conversation, I want to tell a quick story. Something many of you probably don't know about me is in high school, I was an athlete. I still consider myself super active. I guess you could say athletic, healthy lifestyle for sure. And in high school, I played baseball most of the years. I actually played a year of basketball. I ran track. But the main sport that I played all 4 years in high school was water polo, which might seem funny depending on what part of the world you're in. Some areas of the world, water polo is known and big, and some areas of the world you probably don't even know what it is, but kind of an interesting sport. I won't go into the whole sport, but obviously water polo, it's played in a pool. It kind of resembles, I guess, soccer, but you're playing an Olympic size pool with a yellow ball, goals on both ends. There's no offsides. You can go wherever you want in the pool. And you know, the matches of the games usually last 40 minutes to an hour. And there's no part of the pool that is in a shallow end. It's an entirely deep pool. So for the better part of an hour in a water polo game, you are constantly swimming, treading water, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth at high exertion levels, pressing offense, defense against others, playing for the ball. I mean, it is a sport that requires a lot of physical endurance, physical strength, and you know, some of the best shape I was ever in my life were during those years. And the reason I share this story is I remember, you know, the start of kind of every season, and especially the early years of playing the game, the big portion of our practices we would spend treading water, because before you can get into swimming back and forth or the strategy of the game, you have to be able to tread water for a extended period of time and not get tired. And you can think about just that act alone, the ability to stay constantly right in a deep end of a pool nonstop for a period of an hour. Just standing there alone takes a certain amount of ability. And I remember we first would start learning how to tread water. You got to learn the strategy. Treading water, you learn certain ways to do it that are more efficient. You learn to move your legs like an egg beater, quote unquote, where you're doing kind of reverse circles, kind of like the spindles of literally an egg beater to keep a constant flow or a constant propulsion up. You start with your hands and you learn to move your hands kind of in a fast figure eight to create the most amount of efficiency. And you learn to kind of tread water, right, for long periods of time. doing both of those things. But what's interesting is, through practice, you start by being able to do the egg beater and tread your hands, and then the coach will tell you, well, you got to take your hands out of the water. So then you got to put your hands out of the water, and you got to be able to tread for long periods of time with just your legs. And then you had to get your elbows out of the water. And then you had to get to the point where your hands were completely straight up and you were treading water, holding your fingers with just your legs for long periods of time. And, then you got to the point where the coach would bring out giant Sparklets water bottles, like the things you put right in your kitchen, fill them up with water, and we had to hold the Sparklets water bottles up above our heads until the entire bottle drained out, treading the water. And I remember periods of time where you're sitting there and you were just trying to keep your mouth above the water so you could breathe, right, without giving up, sitting there treading water. And some of you guys might be wondering, well, Blake, what does this have anything to do with the conversation for today? And the point that I want to tell all of you, it was in that game, the foundation of everything was learning how to tread water for long periods of time without moving in any direction, without playing any game or scoring any points, completely standing still, not going forward, not going backward, paused or stalled in one place. But in doing that, building the muscle, building the endurance, building the resilience, building the confidence. And treading water was the foundation of everything else that built beyond that in the game. Because if we couldn't do that, you couldn't do anything else. And here's my point for the feeling of stalled or paused, or the feeling we sometimes get when we're not moving in a direction. Sometimes the best strategy, the right strategy, the only strategy is just to tread water. Keep your mouth and your nose above the water level so you could breathe. You're not worrying about moving forward or taking a step or progressing. You're just worrying about treading water exactly where you are. And you got to be aware and conscious of what's happening in those moments, even though you might not feel you're moving in a direction, you're not progressing, you're not making progress toward that goal or that achievement or that metric. You're just in one place. But make no mistake about it, as you're in that one place, you are growing. As you're in that one place, you're building muscle, you're building stamina, you're learning lessons, you're gaining perspective, you're building experience. You're building the muscles that you need for the next chapter, right? For when it's time to start moving forward again. You are growing in that place. Guys, over the last year and a half, maybe you've crushed it, hit a home run, accomplished that milestone, or maybe you've just been treading water. But make no mistake about it, that treading water over the last year has provided so much value to who you are today. I guarantee every single one of you, the person you are right now, right here, today with all of us, if you were to look back at the person you were 12, right, 18 months ago, you're different people. And the person today is better, is stronger, is more experienced, is more wise, has more perspective, maybe is more in tune with what's important, with what matters, maybe is more aligned with your values, right, and what's important. Maybe has more clarity in the stuff that no longer serves you and the stuff that you really want to go after. All that stuff has happened when you're treading water. So let yourself off the hook. You don't always have to be charging forward, moving toward that goal or moving to the milestone. Sometime the best strategy, the right strategy, the only strategy is just to keep your head above the water, keep those legs and those hands moving, and keep treading, building the muscle that's going to serve you for your next steps. And what's crazy is like I can get back in a pool now 20 years later, and I can't say I'm in the same shape I was back then, but you get me in a pool, right? And I still have a lot of the skills from the training after training after training and shredding after shredding after shredding that I did 20 years ago. That muscle memory comes back. And guys, I'm willing to bet the skills that have been gifted to us during this last year and a half and that will be gifted to us in seasons in the future, those are things that you keep with you. They make a better you. You carry those forward. So for those of you that maybe feel like, I'm not where I want to be, I didn't hit all my goals I set at the start of last year or this year, I feel like I'm standing still. Get rid of the negative or limiting language patterns. No, you've treading water. You're building the muscle. You're building the experience. You're building the skills. And all of that is going to serve you for where you go next. And you guys, that's what gets exciting. What I'm most excited about as the shift is happening, hope is restoring. Every conversation is a little more happy and optimistic today than it was 6 months ago with everybody everywhere. What I'm most excited about is not that the world's quote unquote opening back up. It's that where you are, where everyone is, where the world population is, who we are now as that next chapter turns that page. That's what I'm most excited about. And that's what you should be excited about. How you've been shredding water with your hands up and sparklet spotters over your head for the last year and a half. And now you're more ready than ever, right, for what is next for you. So I wanted to share that with all of you guys today. Sometimes, hey, the right strategy is just to keep shredding water and let yourself off the hook. No guilt, right? Know that that is the value that you're building right now and setting yourself up for what comes next. And it's an exciting place to be as we all kind of make this shift for where we're all going together. I'll give you one more view from the top. Here we go. Beautiful day. And you guys tell me, did this resonate with you? Give me some feedback below. How many of you feel like you've been shredding water? How many of you now see that that is a strategy? It is something to celebrate. If you know someone in your social circle that is in that place that might get value from this conversation, tag them in the comments below. Press share on the post to share the gift with your peer group. And if you want to catch past conversations, other inspired thoughts, we got so many on the podcast. Go check them out. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Go click subscribe so you get alerts when new episodes come out. Rates and reviews appreciated. And in the meantime, sometimes just relax. Let go. No guilt. Deep breath. Hands up, right? Keep those legs moving and keep treading water, knowing, guys, that you're building the foundation for what comes next.